It's Friday night. You're sitting on the couch, your body heavy with exhaustion, and the blue glow of your phone screen lights up your face. You open the banking app. That slight pressure in your chest appears. It's not that you're broke, but the number you see there doesn't match the effort you put in during the week. You followed all the rules, worked hard, avoided the expensive coffee, paid your bills on time. You take pride in owing nothing to anyone. But deep down, you feel like something's wrong. It feels like you're running on a wet treadmill, a lot of effort, little progress. Meanwhile, you read the headline: Billionaire buys $500 million super yacht. And here's what's going to make your stomach turn. He didn't use his own money. He used the bank's money. And unlike you, he's not worried about paying that debt. This isn't bad luck. This isn't destiny. This is math. There's a financial operating system running in the world. Most of us are running version Citizen 1.0, where debt is a sin. The ultra-wealthy run version, Titan 2.0, where debt is the most powerful tool for creating wealth. Today, we're going to hack that system. If you want to stop playing the game to lose, you need to understand the rules of those who always win. This is Pengo. He wakes up at 5 a.m. in Antarctica to run his small ice-selling business. Yes, it's a tough market. Pengo is a model citizen. He learned 3 sacred rules from Grandpa Penguin. Work hard, save every fish you can, never, ever have debt. Pengo is terrified of owing. When the bill for his igloo mortgage comes, he pays it on the dot. He sleeps soundly knowing his credit score is 900. He thinks the goal of the financial game is to reach 0. No debts, house paid off. But Pengo has a problem. At 30, he realizes that despite doing everything right, he's not getting rich. Money comes in, pays the bills, and disappears. He sees the sharks, the local elite, swimming in cash despite owing billions to the banks. Pengo thinks they're irresponsible. He thinks they'll go bankrupt at any moment. What Pengo doesn't know is that he's the one holding up the system for the sharks. He's the saver who finances the rich debtor. Pengo is about to discover that everything he was taught about money was a convenient lie. Let's dissect the 7 secrets that separate Pengo's life of hard work from the billionaire's life of leverage. Secret 1. The fallacy of selling to spend. Pengo's first mistake is how he accesses the money he earned. Let's say Pengo's ice business has grown and now it's worth 1 million fish. Pengo wants to buy a bigger igloo for his family, which costs 200,000 fish. What does Pengo do? He follows the middle-class logic. Sell to spend. He sells a portion of his company's shares or liquidates his stock to get the money. The moment he does this, the government alarm goes off. Selling is a taxable event. The government looks at Pengo's profit and says, "Congratulations, my friend, I'll take 30% of that." To have 200,000 fish in hand, Pengo needs to sell nearly 300,000 worth of assets because a huge chunk evaporates in taxes. He's burning his own wealth to live. The billionaire never sells. That's the golden rule. If Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos want to buy a $50 million mansion, they don't sell $50 million in shares of Tesla or Amazon. If they did, they'd pay millions in taxes and lose their voting power in their companies. Instead, they use debt. They go to the bank and take out a loan. Here's the legal magic. Debt isn't income. Money from a loan is tax-free. You don't pay income tax on the money the bank lends you. So the billionaire gets the $50 million clean in his account. He keeps his shares, which continue to appreciate, and uses the bank's money to buy the mansion. While Pengo shrinks his wealth and pays taxes every time he needs money, the billionaire keeps his wealth intact and pays 0 taxes to access liquidity. Pengo works for the money, the billionaire's money works for him, and debt is the vehicle that allows him to spend without selling. Secret 2. The concept of collateralization, real assets versus promises. Pengo hears about this strategy and thinks, "Hey, I'll do that too. I'll go to the bank and borrow money so I don't have to sell my fish." He puts on his best suit, goes to the bank, and asks for a $50,000 loan. The bank manager smiles and asks, "What's the collateral?" Pengo puffs out his chest and says, "My salary. I'm an honest worker. I promise to pay." The bank frowns. For the bank, Pengo's salary is a fragile guarantee. Pengo could get fired. Pengo could get sick. The risk is high. Result, the bank denies the loan or offers a predatory interest rate of 15% or 20% per year. This is consumer debt. It's expensive debt based solely on the promise of future payment. If Pengo accepts, he'll become poorer paying interest. The game changes when you have collateral, real guarantee. The billionaire doesn't ask for money based on his smile or the promise to work. He puts real assets on the table. He goes to the bank and says, I have $1 billion in company shares. They are liquid, valuable, and here. I'll lock these shares as collateral, and I want $100 million loaned. For the bank, this is heaven. The risk is practically zero. If the billionaire doesn't pay, the bank hits a button, sells the shares, and recovers the money in seconds. Because of this zero risk, the bank charges institutional interest rates. We're talking ridiculously low rates, often below 3% or 4% per year, in stable economies. This is called a Lombard loan or securities-based line of credit. The difference is brutal. Pengo pays 20% interest because his collateral is himself, fallible. The billionaire pays 3% interest because his collateral is an asset, solid. Pengo uses debt to cover budget gaps. The billionaire uses his assets to unlock cheap money. That's why when they say money makes money, what they really mean is assets generate cheap credit. The billionaire has access to an infinite ATM with rates that Pengo will never see in his life. Secret 3. Interest rate arbitrage, free money. Now Pengo is confused. Okay, the rate is low, but it's still debt. Paying 3% interest is still losing money, right? Wrong. And this is where Pengo's mind gets tied in knots. Pengo sees interest as a penalty, a dead cost. And in his world, that's true. If he finances a TV, the TV loses value and he pays interest. It's a double loss. For the rich, debt is an arbitrage tool. Arbitrage is just a fancy word for profiting from the price difference. Let's do the simple math Pengo needs to understand. Imagine the billionaire's stock or real estate portfolio grows on average 8% per year. The bank loans him money charging 3% per year. The calculation is 8% asset gain minus 3% debt cost equals 5% net profit. Do you see what just happened? The billionaire borrowed money and got richer because of it. He didn't need to take money out of his pocket. The asset's growth paid the debt's interest and still left a profit. If the billionaire had sold the shares to buy things, he would have stopped earning that 8% appreciation. By keeping the shares and taking out the loan, he keeps riding the market's wave. He's literally creating money out of nothing, using the difference between investment returns and loan costs. For Pengo, debt is a chain that pulls him backward. For the billionaire, debt is a lever that multiplies the speed at which he gets richer. He gets richer because he has debt, not in spite of it. Secret 4. Inflation is the debtor's best friend. Pengo has a mortal fear of inflation. He sees the price of fish rise every month. He keeps his savings in cash under his ice mattress, and he feels that every year that money buys fewer things. Inflation is the silent thief of Pengo's hard work. For those who owe large amounts, inflation is a blessing. It's the best discount there is. Let's imagine the billionaire borrowed $100 million in 2020. The contract says he must repay $100 million in 2030. The debt amount is nominal. The number doesn't change. But the value of money is real. Purchasing power changes. If inflation is 5% per year in 10 years, those $100 million will be worth much less in terms of purchasing power. It's like the money shrinks. However, the billionaire's assets, real estate, factories, stocks, are real assets. They tend to rise in price along with inflation. The final scenario is the price of the billionaire's assets has doubled due to inflation. His debt remained fixed at the original amount. In practice, inflation paid part of his debt for him. The current economic system is designed to transfer wealth from creditors, those who save money like Pengo, to debtors, those who borrow money like the billionaire. While Pengo sees his purchasing power melt away, the billionaire sees his debt becoming cheaper in proportion to his wealth. It's the destruction of money working in favor of those who owe. Secret 5. The infinite refinancing cycle, rolling debt. Pengo panics when the loan term is about to end. He works overtime, sells his lunch to pay for dinner, desperately trying to clear the debt. His goal is the finish line. There is no finish line. The goal is not to pay off the debt. The goal is the roll. When the billionaire's 100 million loan is about to expire, he doesn't take money out of his pocket to pay. Remember, his assets have appreciated over time thanks to Secrets 4 and 3. Now he has even more collateral. What does he do? He goes to the bank or another bank and says, "My assets are worth more now. I want a new loan for 120 million." He takes the new 120 million. He uses 100 million to pay off the old loan and puts 20 million free in his pocket to spend. This is called refinancing. He swapped an old debt for a new one, kept his assets, and still withdrew tax-free money. As long as his asset continues to grow in the long run, he can do this forever. It's an infinite financial carousel. Pengo lives trying to get out of the hole. The billionaire just digs a new hole to cover the old one and uses the leftover dirt to build a mountain. Secret 6. Limited liability protection. Here Pengo raises his hand, trembling. But what if it goes wrong? What if the ice market crashes? What if the bubble bursts? Pengo's fear is justified. If he doesn't pay off his igloo mortgage, the bank takes the house, the sled, and, if doubtful, even his clothes. Pengo's risk is personal and unlimited. Financial ruin destroys his entire life. Billionaires don't have debt in their personal names. They use corporate structures. The loan is taken out by Pengo Investments Limited, not by Pengo himself. If the business goes terribly wrong and the company can't pay the debt, the company files for bankruptcy. The bank can seize the company's assets. But the billionaire's personal wealth, his mansion, his secret Swiss bank account, his jet is shielded. This is the concept of limited liability. There's a legal wall between the individual and the debt. In practice, this allows the billionaire to play with maximum aggressiveness. If he wins, he profits billions. If he loses, the company dies, but he stays rich. It's the famous privatize the profits, socialize the losses. Pengo puts his own skin on the line. The billionaire puts the skin of a disposable legal entity on the line. Secret 7. The final checkmate. Step up in basis. Death zeroes the game. We've reached the end of life. Pengo, now elderly, spent his life paying taxes on every penny he earned and saved. He leaves his savings to his grandchildren. The government comes and collects inheritance and transfer taxes. The little Pengo saved is sliced up again. But what about the billionaire? He spent his entire life accumulating debt and rolling over loans without ever selling his assets to avoid capital gains tax. He dies owing hundreds of millions to the banks. It seems like a disaster, right? Wrong. This is where the final magic trick happens. The revelation, step up in basis. When the billionaire dies, his assets are transferred to the heirs. At that point, the cost basis of the assets is adjusted to the current market value. Example, the billionaire bought stocks for $1. Today they're worth $1,000. If he sold them while alive, he'd pay taxes on $999 of profit. But upon death, the original value for the heirs is considered $1,000. All that capital gain accumulated over decades? The tax on it disappears. Zeroed. The heirs receive the shares worth $1,000 with a tax cost of $1,000. They sell a small portion of the shares without paying taxes, as there's no profit since the death of the father, just to settle the pending bank loans. The rest is pure, clean profit. It's checkmate. They avoided taxes in life using debt and avoided taxes in death using the step-up basis. The cycle starts again with the children. What should Pengo do? Okay, says Pengo, I get it. The game is rigged, but I'm just a penguin. I don't have $1 billion in stocks. What do I do tomorrow morning? You can't become a billionaire overnight, but you can stop acting like a financial victim. You need to adopt the layered mentality. Layer 1. The untouchable security. Don't play billionaire before your time. You need an emergency fund in cash, liquidity. This isn't an investment, it's insurance. It prevents you from falling into bad debt, credit cards, when something breaks. Pengo needs to have 6 months of fish saved, period. Layer 2. Building assets. This is where the mentality shifts. Stop saving to buy things. Start buying assets that you don't intend to sell. Shares of good companies, real estate funds, intellectual property. The goal isn't to sell when the price goes up. The goal is to accumulate wealth that, in the future, can serve as collateral. Don't be afraid of good debt. Financing a rental property where the rent covers the payment, or investing in education that increases your salary. If the return is higher than the interest, it's leverage. Layer 3. Fun, guilt-free. Use the earnings from your assets to pay for your luxuries. Pengo's mistake is buying the luxury igloo with the sweat of his labor. The right way is to buy assets and use the dividends from those assets to pay for the igloo. The central lesson isn't get into debt recklessly. The lesson is stop focusing only on salary and start obsessively focusing on net worth. The system punishes those with high income and rewards those with high net worth. What we learned from Pengo today isn't comfortable. Discovering that the rules we've followed our entire lives are optional for the rich creates anger. But anger without action is just bitterness. Financial freedom isn't about having a private island. It's about optionality. It's the ability to wake up in the morning and say no to something you don't want to do, because you're not a slave to bills. Billionaires use debt to buy time. You sell your time to pay off debts. That's the inversion we need to make. I want you to grab a piece of paper and do a calculation that hurts but heals. List everything you own that puts money in your pocket. List everything that takes money out of your pocket. Calculate your net worth. If the number is negative or low, don't despair. Now you know where you are on the map. Stop trying to pay everything off and start thinking about how to acquire the first asset that will pay the bills for you. Don't be just a worker like old Pengo. Be the owner of the ice. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe. We're just getting started in dismantling the matrix. See you at the top.